Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am DylanLasagna and welcome back to another week of my 2022 NFL recaps. It was week 10 in this weird and wacky NFL season, and I always say this every week, there was some interesting shit that happened, and this week was no different. So that being said, let's get into the week that was week 10. So we had 4 teams on bye this week. Those were the Ravens, the Bengals, the Patriots, and the Jets. Those 4 teams will be coming back in week 11. So going into the game slate for week 10, the Carolina Panthers, both on the offense and defensive side, pretty much exposed the Falcons for who they were. They put them back into terribleness. Yes, a terrible team put another terrible team back into terribleness as Carolina exacted revenge onto Atlanta in another Thursday night shitfest, 25-15. Going into the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion, in the first ever Germany game. Yeah, that Germany game was actually pretty lit. The crowd was there into it, and hopefully they do more of that. Hopefully they bring the NFL into Germany more often. So anyway, best outing in a long while for Tom Brady in the Bucs offense. The passing game clicked for the most part. The running game, Leonard Fournette and rookie Rachaad White was exceptional, but Geno Smith and the Seahawks managed to come back in this one, but the Bucs held on to beat them 21-16. Meanwhile, down in Buffalo, it seemed like it was destined for the Bills to run up the scoreboard, and at one point it was 27-10. But despite a weird day from Kirk Cousins, he managed to help the Vikings lead a comeback, and they even took the lead at one point. But Josh Allen and the Bills responded in kind, retook the lead, and all they had to do after a goal line stand against the Vikings, all they had to do was get it out of the end zone and get 1 yard to end the game, right? It was that simple, right? No, they botched the snap on the quarterback sneak, and they fumbled it, and the Vikings get a touchdown. Holy hell, how does that happen? So now the Bills had to go get a field goal to force overtime, which they did, and then the Vikings retook the lead in overtime with a field goal. And then here comes Josh Allen and the Bills marching down the field yet again, and it seemed poised that they were going to win this game. Josh Allen was going to have another signature moment in overtime, but no. He throws an interception to Patrick Peterson in the end zone. Yet again, another red zone interception as the Vikings completed a comeback and a huge upset over the Bills, 33-30 in overtime. Like, holy hell, that was one crazy game. Game of the year right there. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Justin Fields may have shown more passing in this one, but the Bears were scheming up like Lamar Jackson, so more running for him, and it eventually cost him there, as the Lions roared back from 24-10 and 30-24 deficits to silence the Bears 31-30. And meanwhile, in Kansas City, a decision by the Jaguars to do an onside kick to start the game, it might have angered Kansas City as they ran up to a 27-10 advantage thanks to their basketball offense by Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, they had to hold off a comeback from Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars as they held on to win 27-17. Down in Miami, the Dolphins offense made a splash. They splashed all over the skid marks as 4 different players on offense scored touchdowns as Miami drowned the Cleveland skid marks 39-17. The Giants' big 3 of Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Darius Slayton had an efficient day, while their defense put down the Texans and Davis Mills in this crapper 24-16. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New Orleans Saints, it was a mostly inept offensive game, but the defense for the Steelers put the hurt on their former rival, Andy Dalton, in a turnover department, but their offense did get some flashes from Kenny Pickett as the Steelers pulled away from the Saints 20-10 in this very boring game. Meanwhile, for the Tennessee Titans, they got Ryan Tannehill back, but they only crept away from this game thanks to the terribleness of the Denver Broncos offense, who still look very bad because, not even a bye week could fix their issues, as their offensive line allowed multiple sacks on their quarterback, Russell Wilson, and he threw a very bad interception under pressure to end the game, as the Titans pulled away from Denver 17-10. Going to the late afternoon slate of games, it was Jeff Saturday's coaching debut in Las Vegas against the Raiders, as he led the Colts in this one. And it was pretty weird. Matt Ryan returned to the starting lineup, and he lit up the Raiders defense, and so did Jonathan Taylor. But then Derek Carr and the Raiders offense had an answer for each and everything that the Colts were giving to them until they couldn't in their last gasp, as the Colts held on to beat Las Vegas in an upset of sorts, 25-20. So Jeff Saturday, 1-0 as a head coach. And for the Raiders, wow, this is yet again embarrassing for them. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers may have finally found a receiver he could trust in Christian Watson, the second rounder for them, as both teamed up to net 3 touchdowns and spark a fourth quarter comeback, force overtime, where they would beat Dallas on a game-winning field goal from Mason Crosby, 31-28 in overtime. In a battle of the backup quarterbacks, Colt McCoy once again led a G League team of Arizona Cardinals players and made less mistakes than the Rams backup John Wolford made, as James Conner's 2 touchdowns sealed the deal for the Rams, 27-17. And now for the Rams, their season could likely be done now that Cooper Kupp is on injured reserve for a couple weeks. Yikes. In a Sunday night football game, my San Francisco 49ers and beat the LA Chargers 22-16, as that running back tandem of Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell slithered through that beaten up Chargers defense, as the Niners did enough to pull away with an ugly primetime win. And the Monday Night Football closer of the week, this was insane. This was pretty crazy. The Washington Commanders commanded 3 turnovers on the Eagles with their relentless defense, commanded a big lay kicker in Joey Sly, and commanded an energetic performance from Taylor Heineke in the offense, as they commanded the Eagles to bow down and lose their first game, 32-24. And it was actually closer than you imagined, but the last play of the game was a lateral play that was turned into a fumble for a touchdown. So just stat padding at that point. But holy hell, Washington, huh? Giving the Eagles their first loss at 8-0. So that was your recap. That was your scores around the league in Week 10. Now let's get into my winners and losers of the week. Starting with my winners, obvious, not so obvious, but my biggest winner of the week has to be the Minnesota Vikings. They were down 27-10 in the third. It would have been easy to write off the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. Speaking of Kirk Cousins, he was falling apart against a supposedly elite team yet again. And the defense was just getting trucked by Josh Allen, a more superior quarterback, or at least he was, as well as their old teammate Stephon Diggs. But as the case was for most of their season so far, Minnesota pulled a John Cena yet again. Super Cena, man. You can't see me. So the offense was suddenly springing life through the Bills' leaking secondary. Justin Jefferson had an insane catch, an insane one-handed catch that looked like an interception, but Jefferson somehow got the ball back. The defense tightened up, got 2 turnovers on Josh Allen, both in the red zone. Somehow the red zone's allergic to Josh Allen, or for Josh Allen's, for whatever reason. So, and then the second turnover was the reason for the win for the Vikings, and both were by Patrick Peterson. So for the Vikings, this is their win. This is their biggest win of the season. And yes, a lot of their wins have been comeback victories, but a win is a win for them. So are there still questions about Kirk Cousins? Sure. But even when he doesn't do good, he still provides his spots. He still helps his team win games. And he definitely did so. He and his team rallied around each other to get their best win of the season. So that was a big test that they definitely passed on Sunday. The Miami Dolphins. And I will say this, it was against the skid marks in fairness, but Tua Tagovailoa and the offense looked the best they've ever looked in weeks. Like, really. Tua was wheeling and dealing to a variety of different receivers, not just Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but to Mike Gesicki, Trent Sherfield, and a bunch of other options. And for the running attack, it looks like it's really paying off for Jeff Wilson. He and Raheem Mostert look like a really fast tandem, not just in the running game, but in the receiving game as well. So, as such, they were awarded the top spot in the AFC thanks to the Vikings beating the beating the Bills. So, going to their bye, they have the top spot in the AFC East, and they have no signs of slowing down at all coming out of it. The Washington Commanders, I mean, it's debatable on whether or not they can keep the momentum up in the coming weeks, but this was a total team effort by Washington in a spot where nobody, and that includes me, believed in them to beat the undefeated Eagles. Like, everyone thought that the Eagles were just going to steamroll or just like win a tight one against Washington and go 9-0 in this game. But yeah, nobody expected this kind of effort from Washington. So this was a very good job by them. And Taylor Heineke, he really played a good game and picked on a suddenly off Eagles secondary in this one. Like, he was finding Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel with ease in this one. And the running game for the Commanders, though, they really set the tone. They attacked the biggest weakness for Philadelphia and kept the ball away from them for a whopping 40 minutes time of possession. So, yeah, it's crazy to overreact to the Eagles losing their first ever game this season. And that's probably the high overarching theme for this week for pretty much everybody. But don't overlook too much on Washington and if you're the opponent, because they whether or not they make they're a playoff team, and they may or may not be, but they are a team that can create potential craziness. They are a team that can play spoiler for just about anyone. And now that they upset the Philadelphia Eagles, pressure's on Philly to keep the top seed away from the Vikings and the division away from not just Washington potentially, but the Cowboys and the Giants. So Washington did a really good job on Monday night, not just by upsetting the Eagles, but putting on a really good performance as well. Now, in terms of my losers of the week, the Buffalo Bills. I get it. Josh Allen was playing hurt with the elbow injury, but it still doesn't excuse the fact how and why he still made those two very bad interceptions, both of which caused the Bills to lose in this big game against the Vikings. Like, it was both in the red zone again. Like, I don't know why he has to make these rash decisions to throw the ball into a defender that's just clearly there, especially when in the last play of the game, last play of overtime on their, they weren't even like on fourth down or anything on that overtime play, but he just threw it away, and then Patrick Peterson just happened to be in the end zone. Like, dude, just throw the damn ball away or take the sack. Like, come on, man. Not that hard. And I get it, you don't want to risk further injuring yourself. And maybe it's that over-aggressiveness of Josh Allen that's killing it. That's killing him right now. But it wasn't just Allen to blame for this loss, but the secondary was getting gashed by Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and other players like Adam Thielen in this game. And the second half comeback was a good example of that. And then, of course, the botched snap at their own goal line. Like, how do you mess that up? How do you mess that up, man? With the game to put away, you let them back in. You let them back in like that. So it didn't even take 4 weeks for them to give up the top seed back to Kansas City. And with the way they're rolling, it doesn't look like the Bills are going to be getting it back. And now they have to pretty much worry about getting back to the AFC East itself because, well, they just sunk all the way back to third place. Yikes. The Las Vegas Raiders. Man, the level of embarrassment for owner Mark Davis is willing to take for his team has reached a new low. It really has. First, it was getting shut out by the Saints. Then it was blowing a lead to the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars. Now this week, his team actually lost to a guy that has never head coached in his life. And a Colts team that looks like they're not going to make the playoffs, but Jeff Saturday is willing to have his team inspired and ready to go each and every week, unlike Josh McDaniels does. So if that was embarrassing enough, Mark Davis went out to still support Josh McDaniels as head coach, and both went on to say that they're building. Building what exactly? Hell? They're building hellfire and brimstone down in Las Vegas? Fucking yikes, man. It's no wonder why Derek Carr feels embarrassed just being there with how emotional he got. And you got to feel bad for him in some sense. The LA Rams. It's not because they lost this week because, it was a battle of the backups, but it's because, once again, they put their best player on the team, and that's not Aaron Donald, in a losing situation. They wound up losing Cooper Kupp again. They got injured. He re-aggravated that ankle injury. And now, because of their stupidity in just letting Cooper Kupp stay sidelined on not risking further injury when the game was well out of hand, he's now on short-term injury reserve with a high ankle sprain. So he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. And even if they do decide to bring him back, and once he's eligible to return, why even bring him back? They still have to play the Chargers. They still have to play the Chiefs. They still have to play the Seahawks twice. And by the time they get to the Packers, their season could probably be done by then. It probably will be done by then. So what's the point? What is the point for bringing Cooper Kupp back? So it's just say, fantasy team. So it's a little early to say if that Super Bowl title early this year was worth it. The title defense, the follow-up, certainly has been very disappointing. It's got to be disappointing if you're a Rams fan right now, if there are any in Los Angeles right now. So the Rams can probably put themselves in their Super Bowl repeat hopes officially in the toilet, in the grave, because their season is probably done. It is done. Defino. So those are your winners and losers of the week. And for my hurry up discussion, hurry up game for the week, I want to talk about the refs. I want to talk about this stupidity that has been going on this season because there's either been a lot of missed calls, calls on the wrong player or the team, or just some outright stupid calls. And yes, it's a very moot point. Each and every season, there's been a lot of stupid calls, a lot of stupidity by the refs. But this past week, it's been really, really, I don't want to say the word. It's just been really, really dumb. I'll just say that. It's really dumb. Two notable examples were the Sunday night game where Dre Greenlaw for the 49ers got ejected for a helmet-to-helmet tackle on Justin Herbert when it was Jimmy Ward that tackled Herbert from behind, and the momentum Dre Greenlaw was trying to get into, he couldn't stop. What was he supposed to do? What else was he supposed to do? Hope and pray that gravity, God would reverse time and push him backwards? These refs don't know what they're doing. And I get it. They're trying to protect their quarterback, especially what happened last month or two with Tua. But you're doing it all wrong. And then this past Monday, the face mask penalty that should have reversed Dallas Goedert's fumble early in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, the unnecessary roughness call on Brandon Graham that pretty much ended any chance Philly had to get the ball back in time. But what was, again, just like with Dre Greenlaw, what was Brandon Graham supposed to do He was pretty like when I'm watching that play that caused the penalty. He was pretty clear. Like Brandon Graham had no idea. I mean, it's not to defend him for God's sakes, but looking at in fairness, he was pretty damn unaware that Heineke was taking a knee like literally a half second before he came running into him. He had no time to slow down. His momentum carried him into Heineke. So for whatever reason, he gets called. He doesn't get ejected, but then Dre Greenlaw does. Like, what sense does that make? What sense does that make? So there has to be referees that at some point in time, whether it's in a year, 5 years, 10 years, however long it takes, that get this even the simplest calls right on the right players on the right team. And yes, it'll probably never happen, but there has to be refs that just smarten up, man. Stop being so stupid. So anyway, that was your recap for week 10. Let me know your thoughts on this week, how you enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it, how your team did, or how they failed this week. Let me know your thoughts about this week in the comments below. So anyway, this is DylanLasagna of Very Cold Lasagna, signing out for another week of NFL football. And keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.